Welcome back, fight fans, to the Neutral Corner Boxing Podcast. This is episode 242 for the week of October 31st. Halloween is here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Michael Montero, for Ring Magazine, Ring TV, and the Ring Digital YouTube channel. Great show for you guys today. Richard T. Slone, joins us. Award-winning artist. You've seen this guy's work all over the place in the fight business. It's going to be awesome to have him on and talk. We had a Fight of the Year contender this past weekend. You can really make an argument that it was the Fight of the Year. We'll get into that a little bit later. As always, guys, I remind you to please thumbs up the show. Make sure that you're subscribed. You're clicking that notification bell. Get over to the Ring Digital YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed there. Click that notification bell. Make sure you check that every week because YouTube does these weird algorithm things and they unsubscribe people all the time. So make sure you're subscribed there. And then, of course, like the show, tweet it out, get the word out. That's the best thing you could do to help us out at the Neutral Corner. And then same thing with the audio version. You know, on all the different platforms, iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that you like, share, comment, all that good stuff. If I sound a little under the weather, it's because I'm really, really hungover. Went out yesterday and watched the baseball game, the World Series. My boys, the Dodgers, pulled it out. They're up 3-2 in the series. I think they're going to close it out tomorrow night in Game 6. But had a few cocktails watching the game, had a few more cocktails to celebrate the win, and had a few more after that. We went pretty hard yesterday. I'm paying the price today. I paid the cost to be the boss. But anyway, I am excited to have Richard Slone on. I think it's going to be awesome. You guys have seen his artwork just at different fight promotions. You've seen his stuff, I think, Canelo Golovkin, right? Mayweather Pacquiao, I think Mayweather McGregor. So he's been involved in boxing for a long time. He's done several of our covers, several issues he's done the cover art for at Ring Magazine, which, by the way, if you haven't got the latest issue, make sure you check it out. It is out in stores. I think we got some Slone art here on the back. KO Tickets, friend of the show. He's been on the show before. That's his ad. But I want to say Slone, Richard did the artwork there on that. So anyway, and Richard Slone has a background in boxing. So that's why it's going to be pretty cool and interesting to talk to him. Okay, let's jump right into some news and notes stuff. And I think we got maybe 15, 20 minutes or so before Richard calls in. So let's start with some ratings. For the ratings bros out there, Lomachenko Lopez peaked at almost, I think it was just under 2.9 million viewers. Now, of course, there were some people on Twitter somehow criticizing that number. And I find it interesting that, you know, some people were mentioning, well, it's on regular cable. ESPN's in 80 million homes, blah, blah, blah. Guys, just celebrate it. It was a good number. 3 million people basically tuned in to watch this fight. And so it's the highest U.S. rated fight on, you know, off premium cable, right? But even if you're including premium cable, highest rated fight in America since Manny Pacquiao fought Jeff Horn in 2017, which also was on ESPN. I want to say that was the beginning of Top Rank on ESPN, their deal together. But this card, Loma Lopez, was almost 6 hours. It was a monster card. And the entire card averaged 1.5 million viewers. So 1.5 million viewers stayed tuned for a 6-hour card. That's pretty amazing. That's the average number of viewers at any given time. And then the peak was nearly twice that. So, and then if you look at the numbers hour over hour, and I'm not going to get into all that, but they increased every hour. So more viewers were tuning in as it got closer to the main event. I mentioned this in a tweet. That fight went up against a huge college football game. And it wasn't the World Series, but it was I think the American League Division Championship Series, game. I want to say it was like Game 6 or something like that, if memory serves me correctly. So that's pretty significant, man. Pretty significant. And the reason why I want to start the show with this is because later on we're going to be previewing a pay-per-view card that doesn't belong on pay-per-view. And I just think it's worth noting because if you're trying to build a brand with a young fighter, I think that ESPN and Top Rank, they really have something with Teofimo Lopez. I mean, 3 million people watched him upset Lomachenko, there's a lot to build off of there. Speaking of Lomachenko, he had surgery on his right shoulder in Los Angeles. It was minor surgery. I want to say it was in several parts of the shoulder. I think there's video and stuff. You guys have probably seen the videos and pictures of where he had stitches in several parts of his right shoulder, where it wasn't super, detailed or complicated, where they had to take stuff apart, but they went in there and cleaned up some things on his shoulder. So apparently he was allowed a shot for pain before the Lopez fight by NSAC, which I found interesting because they would not allow Manny Pacquiao to have a shot before his fight with Floyd Mayweather. It just goes to show you how much Floyd really ran that division when he was fighting there. And even as a promoter, he definitely runs that commission. I'm not saying that good, bad, indifferent. I'm just saying it's just a matter of fact. I mean, Manny Pacquiao had pain in his shoulder before his fight with Mayweather. He asked for a shot. They wouldn't give it to him. I don't think it had any bearing on the fight. I think Floyd would have won either way. With this, they let Lomachenko get the shot. And I don't think it really had any bearing on the fight either. Yes, his right shoulder is his lead shoulder, his lead hand. Yeah, I get it. I still think it was just Teofimo Lopez's night. He fought brilliantly. That right shoulder, though, for Lomachenko, that is going to be an issue, an ongoing issue. It has, he tore the same shoulder during his fight with Jorge Linares, remember? So that shoulder has been a problem. And I just think it's going to be a problem maybe for the rest of his career. I've heard some things from a few people. I heard some things that it's been a chronic issue. So I don't know. It might be something that hinders him from this point forward. We'll have to see. Fight coming together that I really like. Michael Conlon, friend to the show, who's been on TNC recently. He's going up against Isaac Dogboe December 5th. I like that fight. That is a good step-up fight for Michael Conlon. Dogboe has a real chance. Conlon has a real chance. So we'll dissect that a little bit more as we get closer to it. But I like that fight a lot. Also, Vitaly Klitschko tests positive for COVID-19. Of course, you guys know, Hall of Fame heavyweight boxer. He's now the mayor of Kiev in Ukraine. I saw an interview with him where, he said, look, I'm sick, but, not really having symptoms. I feel fine. I'm going to quarantine myself. I'm the mayor of Kiev. I have to, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I have to go out and meet people. That's part of being a politician. It's part of being any leader. You have to go out, you have to meet people, you have obligations. So he said that he took precautions and took safety measures and everything, but you go out and you meet that many people as the mayor of a city, you're going to get sick. And when I saw that this was news, I don't know about you guys. I'm not going to get on a big political soapbox here, but I'm getting sick of the COVID fear porn. I think that whatever this virus is, and we're still learning more and more about it as we go, obviously, but we do know now that 99.9% of young, healthy people survive it. It's the elderly and people that are unhealthy already that suffer with it, and many of them die. But I don't think this virus is going away anytime soon, right? We're going to have to learn to live with it. And every time any athlete or former athlete or any type of celebrity tests positive for it, boom, it's big news. It's everywhere. But you never hear the news when they recover. It's not big news when people recover. It's only big news when someone tests positive. I don't really see it as big news. It's millions of people have caught COVID. And of course, I should state, COVID is a real thing. It's a serious thing, and people get it. Some people do die from it. But millions of people have gotten COVID, or millions more will. The more you test, the more people are going to test positive, right? So when I see that, Vitaly Klitschko tests positive, and it's this big, headline, and I just think that there's a little bit of fear porn with the COVID-19 stuff, and I wish that the media would freaking stop. Captain Hook Chronicles in the chat says, it's big news until November 4th. I completely agree with you. Whatever side of the political aisle, because to me this isn't really an issue on either side of the fence, whatever political leanings you have. This is just fear porn from the media, because they never report when, so-and-so recovers. So-and-so is 85 years old and recovered from COVID. Like, that's never a headline. It's some famous person tests positive. Well, no shit. There's millions of people everywhere testing positive. It's a virus that's all around the world. People are going to test positive. The news should be positive. I mean positive in the sense, like the meaning positive, where when people recover and are doing better with it and we're learning more about it, that's the kind of news we should be talking about. All right, I'll get over that. Obviously, we wish Vitaly Klitschko well. I fully expect him to recover. Okay, guys, so let's, while we're waiting for a guest to call in, let's jump forward. Let's do the review, okay, because let's start over PBC on Showtime. I don't think a lot of people watched this card. It was a little bit of a buzzkill because the main event, it was supposed to be Sergey Lipinets versus Kudratio Abdukakarov, but he had visa issues. So in steps Custio Clayton, who is an unknown Canadian fighter. He did fight in the 2012 Olympics for Canada, so he had a pretty good amateur career at that level. And he's never fought outside Canada, though. We didn't know what to think about him. Well, him and Lipinets fought to a draw. And so the two judges had it 114-114. Don Trella had the Canadian winning 115-113. He thought Clayton won. And I don't think neither of the scores were bad. It was a close fight. It wasn't a very, very good fight. This is for an interim title. The winner was supposed to be the mandatory. For the winner between Errol Spence and Danny Garcia coming up, neither man really pressed for the W. I didn't see anybody like really put their, balls to the wall in the final round and go for the W. And neither one of these guys, quite frankly, in my opinion, is just at that level. Errol Spence is going to beat Danny Garcia. I don't think either of these guys would be a threat for Errol Spence. But the IBF, I don't know if they'll do a rematch or what's going to happen now with that interim belt. Down the line, it's going to be one of these guys fighting Errol Spence instead of Errol Spence fighting Terrence Crawford. Anyway, also on this card, Xavier Martinez, 130-pound prospect out of Sacramento, passed a test in this fight against Claudio Marrero, a Dominican Republic native, who's a good veteran fighter, who's been around with some good fighters. So Martinez improved to 16-0. This was a title eliminator for the WBA, my favorite. But this was a step up for Martinez, and he actually got dropped, not once, but twice in the 8th. So he got the chin checked, he got tested, he was able to get up off the canvas, showed character. This is the kind of performance from a prospect that you like to see. So I think there might be something to this kid. Now, the WBA situation, since this was a title eliminator, Rene Alvarado is the regular champion at 130 for the WBA, and Leo Santa Cruz is the super champion at 130 pounds. So Leo is going to lose that title. Gervonta is going to beat him. I don't know if Xavier Martinez is anywhere near ready for Gervonta Davis or Leo Santa Cruz. I don't think so. But Rene Alvarado, maybe. So a fight between him and Rene Alvarado would be interesting. Also, Subriel Matias, Puerto Rican fighter, 140-pounder, coming off his first career loss, really just beat down Malik Hawkins, who is a pretty good amateur out of Baltimore. Came into this fight 18-0. He was stepping up for the first time. Got that good amateur style and everything, but man, just no power. Absolutely no power. And Matias had his hands down. His hands were down below his waist. I mean, literally, he was just walking right up to this kid and punching the shit out of him. So, 6th-round retirement win for Matias, who I think is an underrated 140-pounder. He's raw. He can be outboxed. He's not the most skillful guy, but he is a strong, sturdy guy at 140 pounds, and I think that he poses issues for just about everybody in that division. I can't wait to see him again. That was Saturday, this past Saturday, October 24th. On Friday, the 23rd, we had a great card from Mexico City on DAZN. The card was kind of long and drawn out, and that the broadcast wasn't the best because there's huge breaks between the fights that didn't work. I wish they just would have got on with it. But what we got in the ring was good stuff. Julio Cesar Martinez with the TKO2 win defends his flyweight title. He was in there against the guy that, I think it was a replacement fighter. Really had no business being in the ring with him, but Martinez did his thing. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez versus Israel Gonzalez out of Mexico. This was Nicaragua versus Mexico. This was a good quality fight, and Chocolatito just showed levels, man. I actually think that Israel Gonzalez fought well. He accounted very well of himself, and he is going to improve from this fight. He's going to learn from it, and he's going to be a better fighter. I think he's actually, one day, he could win a title at one point. I liked Israel Gonzalez. I saw some good stuff from that kid. But Chocolatito defending his 115-pound title, 2 strong wins this year in 2020. 2 really good wins, man. Of course, he had the win earlier against Defy and now against Gonzalez, who I think is an underrated, underappreciated fighter. He is a Fighter of the Year candidate. You got to say, Roman Gonzalez is a 2020 Fighter of the Year candidate. How could you not? You could say comeback Fighter of the Year. I don't know. But the win over Kyle Yafai was a great win. And then this win with Gonzalez, I think people are overlooking it because Gonzalez is, I'm telling you, Israel Gonzalez is a pretty good fighter. I think he'll be in line for a title shot again within a year or so. And I see him winning a title at some point in his career. Chocolatito is not the same guy he was a few years ago. He's not the same guy that he was at 108, 112. I think right around there was his real peak. Probably 108, actually. But, man, he's still fun to watch. And I never could understand the Chocolatito haters. And they're out there because I saw some of them on Twitter this weekend. It just makes no sense. I know boxing nerds salivate over Chocolatito, and maybe that's what annoys some people, and that's why they hate on Chocolatito. But, man, if you are a boxing fan, yes, he's a small little guy. He's a tiny dude. I've met him in person. He is a tiny little man. He is the size of my wife, pretty much, similar height and everything to my wife, And maybe a lot of people on Twitter and stuff don't watch boxing under lightweight. Anything under lightweight, they just don't pay attention to it. But, man, you are missing out if you got, like, hater goggles on or you just have some sort of agenda that makes you not want to watch this dude. Watch Chocolatito and watch the subtle things he does. He makes it look very, very easy. He makes it look very fluid and almost effortless. So it doesn't look as spectacular and as exciting and as explosive as some other fighters. But what Chocolatito does is so effective and so pretty. His shifting, his angles, his balance is breathtaking. If you're a boxing nerd, you got to love the guy. And another thing that drives me nuts is people say he has no defense. I tweeted about it this weekend, and you guys saw I retweeted some of Steve Kim's stuff, some of Doug Fisher's stuff, and a few others. We were all tweeting about it this weekend. Guys, you don't have to, shoulder roll to have elite defense. You don't have to be on the outside slipping shots, making dudes miss that way to have elite-level defense. If you can do that and that's your style, great. It's always better to make a guy reach and miss and then counter, right? So if you can slip a shot, that's better than blocking a shot. Always, almost always. I shouldn't say always. But if that's not your style, and for a dude with shorter arms, a dude who likes to fight on the inside at mid-range, if it's better for you to be in the pocket and stand there and pick off shots with your gloves, your elbows, your forearms, and counter from mid-range, from the inside, especially if you could do it effortlessly in between shifting, and you can change angles while you're picking off shots, while you're absorbing a guy's punches, moving him where you want him, getting him off balance, getting the superior angle, and then landing your punches. Chocolatito does all those things. And that's elite level defense. Just because you're blocking shots and absorbing them and rolling with them and not making a dude whiff and hit air, maybe it doesn't look as pretty to the casual observer. I understand that. But that doesn't mean it's not effective. And there are a lot of guys, you see this with fighters out of Latin America. You see it with a lot of the fighters out of Eastern Europe. It's not an American style, okay? But these guys will pick off shots. They'll roll with shots. You see a lot of Mexican fighters roll with punches. They'll let it land a little bit, but they'll roll with it and come right back. Canelo does that brilliantly. But just because you stand in the pocket and you might eat a shot or two here or there, but you pick off shots, you're in position to counter for certain styles, for certain body types, for certain whatever your athleticism levels are. Maybe it works better for certain guys more than others. But, man, just appreciate the beauty of that shit. You are not going to see Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez around for much longer. Just enjoy him. He's another guy like a Lomachenko, where it's like, dude, just enjoy what you're seeing, because it is different. It's a different style than we're used to. And I do think other guys are going to try to imitate what Chocolatito does, the next generation, because they're going to look at that and say, shit, yeah, let me stand in the pocket and pick off a shot so that I can land something hard instead of being on the outside. Maybe I make a guy miss, but I can't make him pay. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy the beauty, man. So we got to boxing nerd out a little bit to Chocolatito. But then in the main event, Juan Francisco Estrada, TKO 11 win over Carlos Cuadras. This was a rematch from their 2017 fight. This, of course, was for the WBC super flyweight title. And this was a fight of the year candidate, okay? And, look, when I saw Zepeda and Baranchek, I thought nothing's going to beat this. This is fight of the year, hands down. Guys, I don't know. Estrada and Cuadras may have beat it out because both guys were down. Estrada was down early. I want to say, what was it, the second round maybe? I didn't put it on my notes here, but I want to say it was the second round if memory serves me correctly. And then Cuadras was down twice in the 11th. It looked like he was out. I mean, the ref let that. I couldn't believe it. He kept letting the fight go, and you thought Cuadras was done, and then you throw a combination. You're like, Jesus Christ, this guy has huge balls. You saw my tweet. I found a picture of 2 huge eggs, and I just tweeted it and said, file photo of Carlos Cuadras' huevos. Oh, Captain Hook Chronicles says third round. Okay, so he's down in the third round. And then later on, of course, Cuadras down twice. And you just saw, man, these guys, this was even better than their first fight. Their first fight was good. The rematch was even better. I don't know, man. I got to go back and watch those 2 fights again. This may have been the fight of the year. But it's number 1 and number 2. Clearly, number 1 and number 2. And to get number 1 and number 2 within, a month of each other? Guys, the schedule's been all right. I mean, yes, the summer sucked. The quarantine sucked. And when fights came back, we didn't have the best fights that, to look forward to. But how can you complain about the schedule over the last month or so? We've gotten 2 fight of the year contenders that would be fight of the year contenders in any year. It's not just because, the schedule's shit this year. There's not a lot of competition. Zepeda Baranchek and then Estrada Cuadras were 2 outstanding freaking fights, man. So this was an awesome fight, and it set up a possible rematch between Chocolatito and Estrada for early 2021. Eddie Hearn of Matchroom, he says he wants to put it on in Los Angeles at the Dignity Health, blah, 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 whatever the hell they call it now. I wish they'd change it back to StubHub. I remember it was Home Depot Center. That's what I want to call it. But I got right when I finally got used to staying StubHub, they changed it again. But anyway, if they put it there, it'll be after the election, so fans will be allowed at events again. I think that is going to be an awesome, awesome night. That might be one that I have to make the flight back to LA for. I might have to fly out there to cover that one live because that's going to be a special event, man. I saw them fight the first time in LA back in 2011, 2012. I can't remember exactly what years. I feel like it was almost a decade ago. And that I really think that's an underrated win for Chocolatito. Most Americans had never even heard of him before that. That was the first time I had seen him fight. I'll admit it. And after that, though, it was like, oh, shit, okay. But then with Estrada, he kind of fell off the radar for a lot of people. But I've always felt, go back, you guys know, I've been saying this for years. I've always felt he was one of the better little fighters in boxing. And I always had him on my pound-for-pound list or right just under it, like number 12, 11, 12, somewhere around there. But he's been on my list for years. And he's another guy that kind of just slipped under the radar. A lot of American fight fans don't know much about him. But he is absolutely a pound-for-pound level fighter. And let me tell you something, man. If, this is a big if, but if Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez can beat Juan Francisco Estrada when they fight early next year, and Chocolatito gets back on the pound-for-pound list at this stage of his career, that's a hell of an accomplishment. That's just special. The guy's already a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the best little fighters ever. When I say little, I'm talking his natural weight, okay, maybe is flyweight at his peak years as a fully grown man. Let's call him a flyweight. So anything at 112 and under, right, 105 to 112, I really think Chocolatito is clearly in the top five. Clearly in the top five. And if he can come back and beat Estrada, and yes, it'll be at 115, but that puts him in the conversation as perhaps the best little fighter ever. I think it really, really does, man. So I'm excited for whenever that happens early next year. They got to get paid, and for Eddie Hearn to pay them what they want to do that fight, they got to have fans, and you got to sell tickets, right? You put that in LA, it's going to sell tickets. You put that at Dignity Health, StubHub, Home Depot Center, whatever the hell it is, you will sell it out. So if they do it there, they could raise enough money, they can pay the guys what they want. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. Okay. I don't know if we're having problems with, let me check my phone here, my messages, because I thought that we were going to have Richard on. I might have told Richard 5:30. So we just might have to wait a few more minutes for him, which is cool because I can get into the fight preview because we got a lot of stuff to preview. So, yeah, I think I told him maybe at 5:30. So, okay, we got a few more minutes here. Let's jump in, man. So this Saturday on Halloween, we have 3 dueling cards, which I love that we have all this action, but I hate that it's all on the same night. I really, really do, because obviously you can't watch all of it live. So we'll break that all down. But let's start with Friday. DAZN is back. Golden Boy on DAZN from Indio, California. Jaime Munguia versus Toriano Johnson. That is a good matchup, my friends. That is a good, solid test for Munguia at 160 pounds. I believe this will be his first official fight at 160. So I expect that to be highly competitive. Highly competitive. That's going to be a good one, man. And then Rashidi Ellis versus Alexis Rocha. I like that fight a lot. That is a good, solid matchup between 2 young prospects. Winner of that fight takes that next step, right? And depending on how decisively they win, could be in title contention very soon. So that's a good, solid doubleheader from Golden Boy, man. That's a good, diehard fans type of card. I like that card a lot. And then Saturday, Murat Gassiev. Remember him? Yeah. He's fighting in Russia. Now, it's been over 2 years since the guys fought. His last fight was at the end of 2018 against Oleksandr Usyk, of course, in the World Boxing Super Series Cruiserweight finale, Season 1 finale. And he's planned to move up to heavyweight. I've met Murat in person. He's a big dude. He will wear heavyweight very well, but his body has not responded well. His body's just breaking down, man. He's had a lot of nagging injuries. He's had fights scheduled. They've fallen through. Now, some of that this year obviously was due to COVID and quarantine, lockdowns, all that. But a lot of it's been injuries. So I want to see how he looks. He got him in there against the right level of opponent. No issues with the level of opponent he's facing. It's been over 2 freaking years. But hopefully we can find some footage of that because it's from Russia, and I don't think there's international a broadcast of it outside of Russia. Okay, here in the United States, MGM Grand, Las Vegas, top rank on ESPN, the monster comes to America. Naoya Inoue, I should say, comes back to America. Inoue, 19-0, going up against Jason Maloney. This is for the WBA and IBF bantamweight titles. I like Maloney. He had that good performance in the bubble series. I think it was June, maybe July, that he fought and looked pretty good. It was June. Okay. And for Inoue, this is his first fight since last November against Nonito Donaire. One of the best fights of last year. You could argue it was the fight of the year. But as much as I like Maloney, and he has been more active, he just fought in June, I think he's going to get destroyed in this fight. I think the monster is going to make a splash on this fight. It's on ESPN Plus, I should say. I think I said ESPN a second ago. This is on the app. Some people are pissed off about that, but you have to put some fights on the app. You can't put it on regular ESPN all the time. So it makes sense that they put this on the app. It's cheaper. You put it over there with all the other action going on Saturday night and the fact that it's Halloween. I think it makes a lot of sense to put this on ESPN Plus. Also, Ewa Brodnicka and Michaela Mayer fighting for the 130-pound title. Brodnicka, her first fight outside of Poland. She's held the title since 2018. I think this is all set up for Michaela Mayer to win that title. I think Top Rank has guided her well, and this is her fight to lose, in my opinion. I think she's going to claim a title here. All right, guys, I think we've got Richard on the line. Let me jump over here to the phones and welcome our guest. Hang on one second, guys. All right, Richard, is that you, sir?
Michael, it is. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Very well.
Thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it. I want to get right into just your background, because a lot of people know you, obviously, for your artwork, which is awesome, and we've seen it at all the different fights. We've seen it on Ring Magazine covers, most recently the Manny Pacquiao cover, which was an awesome piece. But you actually have a lot of boxing background that a lot of people don't know about. So could you talk about that? I mean, I know at one point you were living with Joe Frazier, I think, in Philly. So could you talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Firstly, thanks for the compliments on the Manny Pacquiao cover. But, yeah, my background in boxing goes way back to my childhood in England, where I boxed amateur at a local amateur boxing club called the Barrow ABC. And at 16, I met Joe Frazier in London, and he was there promoting Champions Forever with George Foreman and Ali. Three of those guys were in London. Kenny Norton couldn't make it, so I got to meet Joe and at the Thomas de Becket gym, which a lot of the English listeners will remember. It was a fantastic gym of a pub, and Joe and I just hit it off. So he said, finish school, and if you want to be a prize fighter, you can come to America, and I'll give you a place to stay and teach you how to fight a little bit better than what you've been doing back in England, and that was the beginning of a ride that I'm still enjoying to this day. It's been wonderful from coming from a rural area in England to go to North Philadelphia, which was the fight capital of the world at that time, 1990. It's been amazing.
Yeah,
and then of course I went on to work with Emmanuel and all that other stuff, and yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. How did you go from North Philly, living with Joe Frazier? I mean, you didn't just work with the guy, but you lived with him. And then at one point, you end up at Crunk in Detroit, and you're working there. You're working in the corner for Manny Stewart for some fights. How did that happen? How did you get from Philly to Detroit?
Well, I met Emmanuel actually in Leeds, England, and he had Leon Zababa defeated Tom Collins for the WBO light heavyweight belt, late 80s, and then we did the Dennis Andres fight in England with Jeff Harding at the Hammersmith Odeon, and I worked the corner when Gerald McCullum knocked out Mugabe at the Royal Albert Hall. So I knew Emmanuel from being basically his English liaison, and once I got to America boxing with Joe, I would see Emmanuel at events, and I mean we were great friends. And when I realized that I wasn't going to be a world champion myself, and my passion to fight kind of dwindled away, I steered toward the business side. So Emmanuel took me in as a general helper at the Crunk gym, let's say, and I worked my way all the way to vice president of the gym. Right underneath him, we were, we we would also live together. I lived in his house in the next bedroom, and we worked 18 hours a day.
Man, I can't imagine just the stories you must have heard. Anytime I could talk about Emanuel Stewart, I don't know if you know this. I'm from Detroit, so that's my hometown, and anytime I get to talk about Emanuel Stewart, I love to, because he was such a wonderful human being and just such a good person. He helped so many people in Detroit. He did so many things for so many kids there, and he opened up his home to a lot of people. You know, I know fighters who lived there with him. Andy Lee, of course. I mean, they had a really close relationship. But the fact that you got to live with Joe Frazier and then with Manny Stewart, I can't imagine just some of the stories you must have.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. Amazing. It's surreal, and you're 100% right. I didn't know you were from Detroit, but now I do. And Emanuel lived in the Rosedale Park section, and his house was open to anybody. I mean, the holidays, anybody could walk in and get a Thanksgiving dinner and his famous barbecue, and the basement was turned into living spaces where Michael Montero, guys like this would stay, and had a pool table down there, and every square foot of his house was dedicated to boxing. And he had fighters sleeping on couches if need be. He never turned anybody away, and did absolutely amazing things. So the stories that came along with that, we could talk for hours and hours about it, and not even scratch the surface. Yeah, a wonderful human being. Obviously, yesterday is the 8th anniversary of his passing, and for some reason, this one hit me a little bit harder than usual. I missed him tremendously, and I went out and had a few whiskeys on his behalf last night.
Yeah. I had a few last night too, but I'm struggling today. I'm very hungover. But okay, you've had such a wild ride. We haven't even got to your artwork yet, but have you ever thought about putting all this down and writing a book? Or you could probably write a series of books, honestly, with everything that you've seen and heard.
I think so. I think at some point that will happen. And again, it would be a really big book, because I'd done as a kid. My father was a blacksmith. He'd take us to Appleby Fair, which is in Cumbria, England, and we do bare knuckle fighting as kids, and my grandfather was a boxing guy. He was a British Army champion, and we have a strong history from the areas of where like Tyson Fury's from. He's from Blackpool. I'm like 40 miles away, and so from those beginnings to meet people on the levels that I've met, and be in places. Sometimes, even to this day, I have to pinch myself and think, you know what, man, this is it's unbelievable. I mean, what a life! It hasn't all been roses. Right. But there's certainly enough content on so many levels from the art. I could write a book about the art world and just the struggles in the art world, and the politics and the whole art history. I could write a book on Joe Frazier. I'd write a book on Emanuel Stewart, a book on my interactions with them, and all the fighters that I've got to be friends with over the years. I mean, I worked with Lennox Lewis from 95 to 2003, every camp. And we'd be in camp sometimes, 5 months out of the year, and that's a long time to spend. You add that up over 8 years. Right. It's a considerable amount of time being around Lennox.
I can't imagine. You become brothers when you're around anybody that long, and I know there's probably fights and arguments and times where you get on each other's nerves and stuff, but being in close quarters with somebody that long, you're going to develop a bond and a friendship that I imagine you feel. You probably obviously keep in touch with Lennox and other guys still, I would imagine, right? Do you keep in touch with guys and chat with them a lot, or is it just like, hey, Merry Christmas every now and then, or does it just depend on the guy?
It just depends on the guy, obviously, their personalities, and Lennox and I don't speak that often.
Okay.
He has his family, and but obviously with Geraldine Davis, who represents me in England, and helps set up this interview.
Right.
Geraldine represents Lennox, so we have a very good bond there, and the stories. And I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that we should have a 20th anniversary of like a Team Lewis get together in Vegas. Unfortunately, Manuel and a couple of the other guys are no longer with us, but they can be there in spirit, and it'd be nice, for everybody to get together. It's amazing how quick those 20 years have gone by, and catch up with everybody. Egerton Marcus, Harold Shadow Knight, Courtney Shand, and all Lennox's team. They were one big family, and his mother is a beautiful person. She was his personal cook and confidant, advisor, and so I stay in contact with everybody. I mean, even Nazim Ahmed once in a while will FaceTime. Andy Lee, I speak to Andy often. Tommy Hearns, these guys, usually about business. Somebody will call me and say, hey, I'm looking to do a deal. Can you get a hold of Lennox? Can you get a hold of Tommy? Can you see if Andy would be willing to do his charity event or something? And
okay. So people come to you to get to fighters. That's interesting. They see you as a guy because they know you know everybody. That's pretty cool. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that you taught yourself how to paint. Is that true? And if so, when did all that start?
Michael, that is true. I actually have never. I mean, I've done some tutorials and stuff online, and looked at other artists and things like that. Been inspired, and I looked at different techniques that I didn't know in the last 10 years. But prior to the internet and things, technology, totally self-taught. I just always had a passion for art, and I never strayed too far from boxing. And Leroy Neiman once did an article in the Philadelphia Daily News. It was actually my first full-page article in '96, and they asked Leroy about it, and they said anybody that thinks they can make a living out of being a boxing artist is crazy. So they said there's no future in being a boxing artist. And I said, you know what, I think I can change that. So I've felt loyalty to boxing and artwork, my whole life. I actually, I did branch into some MMA stuff, but my heart and soul is in boxing, and I feel I've given my life and everything to boxing, and it's been good to me. So why change it? Obviously, you could be a commercial sellout and paint the icons and make prints of those, which might be the Elvis Presleys, the Marilyn Monroes, the superstars of the day, the popular things that hang in people's living room, Thomas Kincaid kind of stuff. Just go for the money, but there's no passion there. So my artwork is self-taught, and it's always been driven just by it's always been done my way. So it's I have so much respect for fighters and for the fight game that I've stuck with it.
Yeah, doing anything your way is the best way, especially if it's something like art. Is your family artistic? Did your parents paint, or do you have relatives that were artists, or is it just something you found yourself?
My father was a blacksmith and a farrier, so
Okay.
he'd shoe horses and make the horseshoes and ornamental ironwork. And looking back, he had a very, very artistic eye. We lost him in May of this year, and at 71. And my mother's also got thank you very much. My mother's also got a very artistic eye, but her stuff is more like gardening and decorating, hanging flowers, things that don't interest me much. But I guess that's her creative outlet. So yeah, we're just a creative kind of people, and it's just something I've always done. And combined with my love of boxing, it's just hard to wake up and look at all these years that have passed by and all these great fighters that I've been around and and great fights that I've been at, and to watch how the industry is changing, not just the boxing industry, but also the art industry, and to be featured in Playboy magazine and things like that, to try to get boxing art to a bigger outreach. Of course, everyone wants me to paint other stuff, but my passion again is boxing. It's right. So I just really don't want to be a sellout.
Yeah, because you've painted famous people. I want to say you've painted the president, you've painted celebrities outside of boxing. So obviously that's there anytime you want it. You can go that route, as you said, and get that commercial success, the big commercial success. But I've seen you post stuff on your Instagram or your Twitter where there's little videos, maybe it speeds up, you painting and your process and all that. Do you enjoy doing that kind of stuff and sharing it on social media and getting it out there and showing people how you do it?
There's very little footage, Michael, out there of me doing anything like that because I don't I don't really do it out there. I don't want to.
Okay.
I've been offered. Yeah. I mean, people tell me a lot of time you should do time lapses. You should do.
Yeah, I thought I saw a time lapse once of you.
No, I don't think.
Okay,
it's very unlikely it was me. It might have been maybe at the best like a beginning photograph. Like a four or five stages of the painting. But yeah, I'm not a guy that wants to take the limelight. I'd rather let the finished product do the talking and do the do the circus act, man. I'm not one of those guys that sets up in the lobby of the hotel and whips out some paints and fake easel and palette and plays the game. You're more likely to find me, smoking a cigar and staying out of the way of the limelight and just walking past my paintings on the wall at the MGM and just discreetly. I'm not
strictly old school.
Not an internet performer. Yeah, old school, man.
Yeah, you definitely got the strictly old school. Well, you talked about art changing, and that's one of the ways I see it changing is where you see artists sharing more things on social media and stuff like that. But so that's something that you make a conscious effort to avoid, and you try to keep your process and all that more, I guess, just to yourself. Is that how you'd say it?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think creating art is a very, very personal and private thing. I just think because you're kind of bearing your soul there, and I have my own habits that I've created over the years of painting. I do like to smoke a cigar while I paint and maybe sip a little whiskey, and I have my own playlist of music. So it's not really so much protecting secrets or anything like that. It's just not being just being able to be myself, as you said earlier. Okay. Anything you can do your way is a success. So yeah, I just I mean, just very few people have stepped foot in my studio. I have to really, really trust you in general or feel comfortable because my studio is a mess. I live like, somebody would probably think the studio belongs to a homeless guy, but that's.
So that stereotype of artists living in crazy messes, that's true, is what you're saying, like the studio anyway. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, times you by 10, you'll have an idea of how I operate.
Gotcha. Well, how does it work so you've done a lot of artwork for fight promotions like Canelo Golovkin. I know you did that. Mayweather Pacquiao. How does that work? Do the promoters contact you through Geraldine and you guys just set it up? Is there like a contract? How does it work for a specific fight promotion, let's say? I
have a guy, Ron Pellizzari, who's been a friend of mine from years ago, when the Mandalay Bay first opened, and he had a lot of good boxing connections with the casinos. So initially, Ron got the artwork in some of the casinos and in the VIP hosts, where the whales would come and pick up their tickets, things like that. So we got exposure there. Obviously, I knew people in the fight game. My first cover, I think, was 1996 for Ring. Did a few other magazines before that, and a couple of programs for the Pennsylvania Golden Gloves, and it just kind of built up. And now, I think Ricky Hatton said it quite recently in an interview that if you get a Slone painting, and it's a wonderful compliment, and it's very humbling, and I don't want to sound like a big head, but he said if Richard Slone paints you, you're somebody in the boxing game, and so that's how the promoters see it. I think that these premium events, whether it's Floyd Mayweather and Leonard Ellaby, or Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, or Bob and Top Rank, the heavyweight championships of the world. Going back in history, if you look, a lot of the fight programs and magazines, illustrations and fight art has been around since, I think, 1350 BC.
Mm-hmm.
They found paintings of people with gloves on fighting. Maybe it was in Egypt or somewhere, but it's paintings on the wall. So it's a long relationship with pugilism that is thriving, and I'm basically trying to take it to a little bit of a crossover and get into the fine art galleries with some bigger collectors and show them how important the fighting arts are. Not the fighting arts as in MMA and martial arts. I'm talking about the actual visual fine art of combat.
I couldn't have worded it better. I think you doing that is helping just get more eyes on boxing and fighters that they might not know. Because I feel there's so much art of somebody like Muhammad Ali, right? I mean, everyone knows him. He's an icon. Even somebody like Mike Tyson. But you do art, again, Ricky Hatton, for example, who some art collectors, obviously a lot of art collectors probably don't know, and you help get his face out there to these folks. So I think that's a great service for the sport of boxing. And your stuff is great. I loved your stuff on our covers and Ring. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show, sir. All I can say is have a great night. And, well, actually, before I let you go, could you let everyone know where to follow you on your Twitter here? I thought I had your Twitter pulled up. I was going to just give I always ask people to give their social media info, but you're just Slone Art.
Yeah,
right?
you've just Slone Art. Yeah. SLONE, and we don't have a huge presence online. We don't sell really originals and prints. Kind of sell out. Like we've never sold canvas prints and stuff online. So, but if somebody does want them, then they should contact us through that avenue, or contact Geraldine or Ron, or I have quite a few dealers out there. And if you look hard enough, you'll find me, man. You'll find the reclusive artist somewhere out there. You keep your eyes open, and yeah, man. You might be sat next to me at a bar somewhere and not even know it.
There you go. And Slone is SLONE, guys. I know a lot of people out there probably butcher your last name and make it SLOAN or something like that. So it's SLONE, ladies and gentlemen. Richard T. Slone, thank you so much for being on the show.
Michael, my pleasure, man. You have a wonderful day, and all your guests, all your listeners and guests, everybody have a wonderful day. And during this hard time of boxing, because we are going through changes, as a fight family, I just think everybody needs to pull together and realize how special boxing is and how lucky we are to have it, and the characters that are in it, and the guys like you. I want to thank you for doing your job, because it's guys like you during these times that are going to keep this thing as the sport of kings.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Have a good one.
Okay, buddy.
All right, we'll talk soon.
You take care, my friend.
You too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Richard T. Slone. Let's get the applause there. Let me hear. There it is. Richard T. Slone. That was very interesting to talk to a guy that, again, people see his art They see you've seen the fight posters, you've seen his stuff on Ring, but a lot of people don't realize he boxed. And I mean, to live with Joe Frazier and years later to live with Emmanuel Stewart, just the wealth of knowledge that man must have. If I ever get to meet Richard in person, I definitely, sir, I will buy you a drink and let's just, I won't even talk. I'll just shut up and I just want to listen to you tell stories about Manny Stewart and Joe Frazier, because that would be amazing. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Okay, so back to the preview, because I hit news and notes, we hit the review, and now we'll do a preview. I talked about Friday's card, Golden Boy on DAZN from Indio. I like that. For those of you just joining the show, I talked about this a little earlier. Jaime Munguia, Toriano Johnson, that is a good middleweight crossroads fight. And then Rashidi Ellis versus Alexis Rocha, that is a great fight of two young guys coming up. I won't say that's crossroads, but that is a kind of make or break kind of situation for those two guys. So I really like that doubleheader Friday on DAZN. Saturday, Murat Gassiev returning to the ring for the first time in over 2 years, but he's supposedly was supposed to come back a couple times before and it fell through. So hopefully this time it goes off and he actually gets in the ring, because anytime he fights, we're going to want to see, right? He's an exciting fighter. All right. We've got a three-headed monster Saturday on the three big platforms here in the United States. I talked about the bubble fights in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand on ESPN Plus. Naoya Inoue versus Jason Maloney. Again, I like Jason Maloney. I think he's a quality, good prize fighter, but the monster is a monster. And I think he's going to absolutely bludgeon and batter Maloney, and I see a big knockout in that fight. I'm thinking mid-rounds knockout. Could even happen before that. It really just depends on how sharp Inoue looks, because he hasn't been in the ring in almost a year. So perhaps it'll take him a few rounds to get going. There's also a lot of pressure on him because, recent signing with Top Rank, they're bringing him, to Vegas, and they're going to try to make him a feature now and a staple in Vegas. So there is some pressure on him. I actually think it's going to go to the mid-rounds maybe, but I expect a stoppage win. And then I think Michaela Mayer is going to get a world title in the co-main. All right, let's jump over to DAZN. Wembley Arena in London. Matchroom putting on a good card here on DAZN. Well, not a great card, but a pretty solid one. Lee Selby, former featherweight title holder, going up against an undefeated Australian, George Kambosos. But this is a big step up for the Aussie. He's 18-0. I get it. 135 pounds. One second, guys. Another political call. All right, hang on. Sorry about that. That was another one of those political calls, these robot calls. I can't wait till next week when this election is over and COVID goes away and I stop getting calls and text from people telling me who to vote for. Anyway, before I was rudely interrupted by some person working for a politician who doesn't even know their name. Guys, yeah. So this card, Lee Selby, George Kambosos. Selby's too experienced. I think that he's going to win this fight over the Aussie. But I don't know. Maybe the Aussie will show us something. He is the naturally bigger guy. This is a big step-up fight for him. This is the first time he's going to face a guy with this level of experience as a pro. Main event. I'm excited for this fight. Some people are shitting on this fight. I like it. Oleksandr Usyk versus Dereck Chisora. This is a good place setter for Oleksandr Usyk to see how he stacks up at heavyweight. Now, there are people out there saying that this is going to be a complete blowout, and maybe that's true. Maybe it's true. I don't think so, though. I see a competitive fight here, at least early on through the mid-rounds, because Dereck Chisora is a full-fledged heavyweight. He's a big, strong guy, and Usyk is a natural cruiserweight who has bulked up to heavyweight. And let's face it, it's been 2 years. He's had one fight in 2 years, right? That was against Chaz Witherspoon. He had like 80 different opponents for that fight that kept falling out. He's settled on Chaz Witherspoon. And he's had a lot of injuries, man. He's had injuries that he's had to fight through. And it just hasn't been this smooth transition. So do I think that Oleksandr Usyk, skill-wise, is levels above Dereck Chisora? Yes. On a pound-for-pound stage, yes. But in terms of just size, Dereck Chisora is a big, strong guy, an experienced heavyweight, and he's been in there with top guys. He's not a top 10, but he's a top 15. He's a top 15 on the cusp of top 10. And on any given night, Dereck Chisora can give any heavyweight trouble. So I'm excited to see this fight just to see where Oleksandr Usyk stacks up. I mentioned this is his second fight at, this will be his second fight in 2 years, his second fight at heavyweight. Witherspoon was last October. So, okay, another thing I want to talk about with Usyk, pound for pound. I tweeted out, and I even posted on my YouTube channel, a graphic, a picture of our updated pound for pound rankings at Ring, our ratings, our pound for pound ratings. And people were like, where's Tyson Fury? Where's Tyson Fury? And I tried explaining, and I've said this before, some people agree, some people don't. But personally, and most boxing writers agree with me, you do not rate heavyweights on the pound for pound list until they have very much separated themselves from the pack and or owned the division for years. Tyson Fury is the top guy right now, but the Klitschko win was 5 years ago. Between that and what he did with Deontay Wilder earlier this year, 5 years of not much, okay? So there isn't this long history of owning the division. There's these two really good wins, but it's him right now and Anthony Joshua. The winner between him and Anthony Joshua, that's pound for pound, okay? And I say that, and there's people that go, well, what about Usyk? He's a heavyweight. Why is he on the pound for pound list? And I'm like, you do realize he fought before 2019, right? He was a cruiserweight. He cleaned out his division. He is arguably the most accomplished cruiserweight ever, and he moved up in weight and is now fighting guys bigger than him. His pound for pound rating came from his work at cruiserweight. Now, if he struggles or loses to Dereck Chisora, as some people are hoping for and predicting, then he's off the pound for pound list. But so guys, nuance matters is all I'm saying. And Oleksandr Usyk, I think, absolutely rates pound for pound because of his work at the cruiserweight division. Yes, he's a heavyweight right now, but he's not a natural heavyweight, okay? It should be a pretty easy thing to understand. If you rate Tyson Fury on your pound for pound list, that's cool. But I just personally don't, and most people on the ring ratings committee agree with me. You don't rate a heavyweight until they have clearly separated themselves. And the winner between Fury and Anthony Joshua, if and when that happens, they will do that, and they will be on the pound for pound list. Until then, you're just outside of it. All right, real quick here. Let's preview this PBC on Showtime pay-per-view. And now I'm going to get on my political soapbox a little bit here because I have to. This card should not be on pay-per-view. I get it. The fanagers and the pay-per-view buy bros and the pocket watchers and pocket checkers, you're all going to jump all over this. I understand. It's the business of boxing right now. You got to go to pay-per-view to make the big dollars. I get it, okay? There's the short game and there's the long game. What Top Rank just did with Teofimo Lopez on ESPN is going to make him a star down the road. Gervonta Davis, perhaps against Leo Santa Cruz, will do 200,000 or so pay-per-view buys. That is not going to equate to the 3 million live viewers Teofimo Lopez had when he upset Lomachenko, who was a star name, not a superstar brand in boxing, but a star name. Even MMA guys like Joe Rogan and stuff talked about Lomachenko, right? He was kind of somewhat of a crossover in the fight sports world. And Lopez just upset him on regular ESPN in front of 3 million people. Tank Davis is fighting a guy in Leo Santa Cruz that nobody wanted to see him fight. Leo Santa Cruz, I think, has one fight north of 126 pounds, I believe. Let me go to his resume real quick and double check. But yes, he has one fight. His last fight was at 130 pounds. Every other fight of his was at 126 or below. The bulk of his career was at 122 and 118. He is not a lightweight. And Gervonta Davis is definitely a lightweight who Claims he's going to make 130 for this fight. He's going to squeeze down and make 130. But he's clearly the bigger guy. These are not two fighters that need to be fighting each other. We should be seeing Gervonta Davis go after the top fighters. If he wants to stay at 130, cool, but he hasn't shown us that, at least not consistently on the scale. If he wants to stay at 135, that's cool too. Fight the best fighters in the division. So not only is this a fight that nobody wanted to see, it's on pay-per-view. That's going to limit the audience. And what you're going to have is the fanagers and people saying, well, it's about the social media impressions on Twitter, and it's about this and about that. And they'll talk about all these things. That's great. But you got to get in front of people. Your fights need to be seen. And you could say, well, if you include streaming numbers, this many million people are watching. Okay, great. If that's what you're going for, is the numbers of eyes, then don't put the thing on pay-per-view so people have to stream it. Just put it on regular Showtime. But again, put it on Fox. That Charlo doubleheader should have been on Fox. But even more than that, this fight should, because Gervonta Davis does move the needle. Gervonta Davis has sold out venues, not just in his hometown, but he's done it here in Atlanta. I saw him. He's fought over in the UK. He's fought in different markets, right? And he's done good numbers. He fought in Los Angeles and did good numbers there. He does sell tickets. He does move the needle on social media. But his audience is limited. If he wants to get the mainstream audience and branch out and get other groups of people watching his fights, outside of diehard fight fans and people from Baltimore in the hip-hop community, Floyd Mayweather fans watching this stuff, man, you got to branch out and you got to be fighting on regular TV. So I really wish this fight was on Fox. I really, really do. I think it's a big mistake to put it on pay-per-view, but I've been telling you guys since last year that this is what they were going to do. I was told by Leonard Ellaby, pretty much. I mean, he couldn't say it outright, but he pretty much, because I know how to read between the lines, I knew what he was saying, and I've been telling you guys, it's going to be him and Leo Santa Cruz in 2020. Well, here we are. So some people think that this is going to be a super competitive, very, very close fight. If Gervonta Davis is on weight, he has no issues making weight, and is sharp and focused, I think he wins this fight pretty handedly. I do think it probably goes the distance because Leo Santa Cruz has shown a good chin. He knows how to survive and cover up. I think this is going to be not an exact replay, but somewhat similar to Errol Spence, Mikey Garcia. That's just how I see this fight playing out. Also on this card, Mario Barrios and Regis Prograis are in showcase fights. They're both going to get big wins. Diego Magdaleno and Isaac Cruz Gonzalez. That is going to be Diego Magdaleno, recent guest on the show, friend to TNC. I think that's going to be a good fight. I think that fight could steal the show just because of the matchups. But assuming this thing gets 200,000 pay-per-views, and that's a big assumption because the Charlo pay-per-view didn't even do, I'm hearing as much as 110. I'm also hearing some people say it was just a shade short of 100,000. But either way, this is going to do more than that. I think this will, because Davis does move the needle. Assuming it does 200,000, though, that's maybe $6-7 million in revenue, which is great. The fighters get paid and everything. But does this build Tank Davis's brand at all? I don't know about that. And the issue is, from this point forward, his handlers will say, Gervonta Davis is a pay-per-view fighter. We went on pay-per-view. We made $6-7 million, whatever it is. Say they make $8-9 million. Going forward, that's going to be the number he needs to fight. And now he's a pay-per-view fighter, just like the Charlo brothers. Now they're going to be pay-per-view fighters. Errol Spence, Deontay Wilder, all these guys are going to be pay-per-view fighters going forward. That's gonna hurt the brand. That's going to hurt boxing. We need less pay-per-views, not more of them. That's just my political soapbox. Let's jump over here. We got a call. I got like 5% left on my battery, so hopefully my phone doesn't die out.
Mike.
619, what's up, man? You're on the show.
Hey, Mike, it's Tim from San Diego.
Tim from San Diego, what's going on?
Not much, man. Just wanted to shoot the shit with you. We've had quite the month, huh?
Hell yeah, man. We got a couple great fights.
Yeah,
I mean, people are still bitching and moaning, but we've had some great fights.
You know, they have really no reason to. I mean, I think we should all be on the same page, especially about Tio. You know, he earned that belt. You know, he went in there, he did what he had to do on that night.
Right.
Yeah, sure, Lomachenko had a bad night at the office, but that's what that was. It was a bad night at the office, right? You lose those belts, no rematch clause, and that's on him. Yeah. So, you know, kid's got to do what he's got to do. He's got to move on with that career. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, if he wants to move forward and doesn't want to do a rematch, then that's his prerogative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a shame for the fans. It's a shame for us. But you know, on the same, I guess on the flip side of that, I would say, you know, he's got to do what's best for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, if he goes up to 140 and he ends up fighting the winner between Taylor and Ramirez, I gotta say, I'm way more interested in that fight than a rematch between Lopez and Lomachenko. I just think a fight between him and the Taylor Ramirez winner is an awesome fight, man.
Oh yeah, 1,000% agree. What do you think about Gallo Estrada Chocolatito 2 at the old Step Up?
Well, that's what they're talking about, man. Eddie Hearn's talking about that for early next year. He wants not only does he want fans to be there, but he wants to do it where they could like fill it up and not do the social distance seating. So I think that bowl usually seats like 7,000 or 8,000, but they've done additional seating. I think Triple G did like 10,000 there once. So even if they just seated it regularly and got 7,000, 8,000 people in there, dude, that would be awesome. I can't wait for it.
No, yeah, I'm really excited for that. Would you fly back for that one?
Probably. I probably would, man. I'd have
assuming
to.
Travel restrictions up and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be one where it's like, okay, I'm flying out there. We're doing an LA trip and hanging out and getting some work, getting work in there too. But, we'd turn that into like a trip where we could see friends and everything. And that would be awesome.
Right. How could you not, right? That would be perfect. Perfect excuse to come out.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, I'm really excited about Inoue and Maloney at the end of the month. That's going to be fun times.
Yes. I think Inoue's going to crush him, but I feel kind of bad for Maloney.
Yeah, I think that's a given. But with the way things have been going with COVID and the way things have been since people have been coming back, maybe he might actually last a little longer.
True. Good point.
If that's the way it is, I expect maybe Inoue might fold him in half by 10. I don't know about 7. That's a little. It's
almost
than the bookmakers are making.
What round? It's not like a question of if, but when. Inoue is just. He really is a monster, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing him.
And then, of course, there's Tank this weekend. That's it's kind of a joke. I mean, assuming Tank skips a meal, shows up to the fight, I expect him to eat Lopez. So that'll. I'm just saying Lopez. My bad.
I do what you meant. Yeah, you like him big in that fight over Santa Cruz? Like, you think it's going to be a big win?
Yes, over Santa Cruz. Yeah. Well, Santa Cruz is fast, but that's all he really. And I mean, feather fist, man. So.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the power to. A guy like Tank, you got to keep him off of you, and if you can't do that,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. So, I mean, I think everybody knows what's going to happen there, and I think the bookmakers probably got it right. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, great month overall, right?
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Boxing's back, baby. Boxing's back.
Yeah.
All right, it was good talking, man.
All right, man. Call in anytime, bro.
Take care.
You too, man.
All right. See ya.
All right, there he goes. Tim from San Diego. Guys, my battery is at 2%. So we got one call. We're going to have to make it super duper quick because my battery's about to die. I should have charged it, but, I'm hungover today. So 447, you're on the show. We got to make it super duper quick. My battery's about to die.
Hello, Mike. All right. Hello, Mike. It's Hamid.
Hamid, what's up, man? We got to do it real quick. My battery's about to die.
I'll give you a brief. All right. Since that's the case, I'm just going to say, is there any news on Wilder? Because we still haven't heard about what's going on with the Wilder Fury situation.
News?
I know Fury's...
No news,
I know Fury might fight. Yeah.
Fury's going to fight December 5, but no news from Wilder other than him firing his trainer. But that might be a good thing, because if Wilder's taking this time to train and to get back to basics, maybe that's what he needs to do and get off social media and just focus on being a fighter,
Yeah, so, this is what I wanted to find out. If the fight doesn't happen this year and Wilder fight, say, someone like Andy Ruiz next year, does that mean the contract's then being, what's the word? The contract's expired or whatever?
I don't know. I don't know if I don't think it's expired if Fury fights somebody, but if Wilder fights somebody, it might be expired. I think there's definitely got to be a date range or something in there because a contract like that can't be forever. But I would think like after a year or something, it's null and void. But I just don't know the details of it, man. I'm not sure. But
All right.
I think it'd be better for Wilder to fight someone like Andy Ruiz, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I'll call in earlier next week.
Okay.
I'll let you go before your phone dies. All right.
Yeah, I'm at 1%, man. Thanks a lot, Hamid.
Bye.
All right.